January 26th will be the 1 year anniversary of Kobe's tragic death.
Yeah.
And I feel like we should take some time out this episode just to maybe I mean everything about Kobe has been said, I would say, but maybe we just reflect on what Kobe Bryant meant to us as individuals and what we think he meant to the game to us.
I To me, the more interesting part about Kobe's impact is his impact on the city of Los Angeles. Um, they loved him in this city, man. Like I don't think you'll never see an athlete reach the level of respect that everybody in Los Angeles had for Kobe Bryant. Um, and especially like multiculturally too. Like that was always the thing that really pissed me off about that Clippers marketing campaign last year where they were trying to market themselves as like the blue collar team in Los Angeles. Like Kobe Bryant's work ethic absolutely inspired so many people in Los Angeles. And I would go even further and say like I know plenty of like Filipino people that like looked at Kobe Bryant as an inspiration and Latino and obviously black and white. Everybody just yeah, his impact on Los Angeles as a city is something to behold. And I don't know if there's an athlete across the country that has ever impacted a city the way he has. And that was just such a surreal day. Even doesn't feel like a year ago. It feels honestly just yesterday. Especially given what happened the night before with LeBron passing him on the all-time scoring list, and then to wake up the next morning and have someone be like, hey, Kobe Bryant died, and be like, what are you talking about? And then the news starts to trickle in, and as someone that works in sports media, like it's tough. Like you see that story comes from TMZ, and uh, you don't want to jump the gun and be like, oh, well, that's true, definitely, because it's not like TMZ is the most reliable. But then in the back of your head, you also know like TMZ usually gets that kind of stuff right. Like I think I remember telling you that TMZ was reporting that Michael Jackson had passed away, and so that was just once I saw that it was from TMZ, like I just got that pit in my stomach. And just as more information comes out, as it starts to get confirmed, and it's just it was a hard day.
Yeah, you have a knack for breaking that kind of news to me. I think you've broken every celebrity death there is to me in the last like 13 years. But to me, uh, Kobe Bryant, what cements what I think is different about his legacy than any other player in the history of the game is well, for one, he was the first athlete that we actually got to watch. We watched grow up from start to finish, and he actually played through a lot of this, through about half of the beginning of the social media era. And we got to see him grow up. We got to see uh man, it's hard to talk about. Basically what's different about him is where people in the 90s wanted to be like Mike. Kobe Bryant went and did that, and then he taught us how to be like Mike. The Mamba mentality is something that will live on forever. He created an idea that will never die. Um, and it's not something that is strictly related to basketball. The Mamba mentality lives through anything that you want to achieve. Um, if you want to be a better husband, if you want to be better at your sports media job, at your regular desk job, you want to be a better doctor, you want to um, You want to be better at video games. You want to be better at a whole different sport altogether. You take the lessons that he taught through the Mamba mentality of just trying to learn everything that you possibly can and having that drive and determination to, you know, achieve your goal, and you're going to do that. And, it's I think that's why it hurt so much when he left this world, because he had so much to give us past his retirement. Um and not just, he wasn't just a guy that dribbled a basketball. Like, his mind was so much bigger than that, and there was so much more that he had to offer. Um, I mean, I loved that at the end of his career and after his career, he was constantly in contact with players in the league that wanted to learn from him, and he was more than willing to share anything that he could with them, you know. I loved his work in the women's game, working not only with his daughter, but with other prominent female basketball players, and taking his daughter to games, and just trying to. I would have loved to see what his impact and influence would have been, and what it would have done for, the WNBA and women's basketball, especially when Gigi would have become of age to get there. You know what I mean? Um, it's
Yeah,
still like you
I
said.
think,
It's
and like you said, like he had just started his second career, and I think it's hard. And I think one of the funny things is like, not funny, but we all wanted so bad for there to be a LeBron Kobe rivalry, and I think as we get further away from it, we realize that those two had so much respect for each other,
mm-hmm.
and it just and like yeah, like you said, like this everything he did for the women's game and all that is remarkable. Um, but it's just it doesn't feel real still. Like I'll talk to one of our friends and be like, we'll just talk about it randomly, and it's like, oh yeah, Kobe's not here anymore, and it's like that was the thing that hit me that day, is that like um he always just was here in Los Angeles. Like Kobe Bryant was synonymous with the city,
Mm-hmm.
and so for it to not for him to not be here anymore, it's always gonna be surreal, and it's just always gonna be a bunch of what ifs, and obviously like the loss of GG is almost unfathomable. And then watching the services at Staples Center was amazing. That story that Shaq told was so funny. I
Yeah.
like, and it's hard to not like, yeah, like Tuesday's gonna be awful. There's gonna be so much ugly crying all around. Like it's just
Yeah, there isn't a celebrity death that I can think of that hit. I'm just gonna say that's hit a city even as hard as this one has. Like, I
no,
feel like
like
living in the LA area, it's living in Southern California, like, you can feel it still. I don't know how it is for the rest of the nation. I have a feeling it's the same based on like the coverage that there is on it, and just listening to other people that I know from different parts of the country. But you know, usually a celebrity passes and you're sad.
yeah, like
You're sad for a little bit. Like Mike, I'm not gonna lie, when Michael Jackson died, I shed a tear. But
no,
like,
yeah, I mean,
I was kind of over it after like the first month or two. Kobe
yeah,
Bryant still gives you this weird pit in your stomach. Like, I
because
couldn't really talk earlier, and I had a whole thing I wanted to talk about, like, planned
it was
out.
just so sudden. It was so sudden, and it just came out of nowhere. And for it to be as horrific as it was, I think that doesn't help. And yeah, like it's just, and I think like kind of going back to what I said, like he inspired the world. Like he was ours in Los Angeles. Like like Kobe Bryant was our athlete. Like he's synonymous with the city. Like I said, like it's like what is it? It's like Kobe, Magic, and then maybe like Fernando Valenzuela. But even then, like it's probably a long list of Lakers on that list, but Kobe is above all of them. And no matter what you think of his career, whoever you think is better than him, worse than him, blah blah blah, like everybody in the city, if they like basketball, like they like Kobe Bryant, they like the
Um,
Lakers.
um, everyone in Los Angeles was ride or die for Kobe Bryant. It
Yeah,
didn't matter. It didn't matter if you had
yeah. I mean,
facts or anything. It didn't matter. Like
no.
he could do no wrong. He
And even before I liked basketball, like I still knew who he was.
hmm
And
that's
like as
another
I
thing.
got
Yeah,
older and started to understand basketball more, like you start to you like you couldn't help but respect him and love him and everything he did. And like watching his last game and crying at that, getting emotional over that, and then knowing like, now knowing that what, like 4 years later, 3 years later after that, that he'd just be gone.
yeah. You
Like,
yeah
and
no
like as he was just starting, and it's just
yeah
I'm not ready to see what Powell has to say. It's just
yeah.
yeah.
It's crazy, dude. Um, and it sucks because I spent a majority of his last few years right before before the Achilles injury, like not being the biggest fan of him because being a Heat fan and how diehard these Laker people are for Kobe, they created this rivalry between the Lakers
Yeah,
and Miami that never materialized, and they
never
felt
came to fruition. Yeah.
so threatened by that big three in Miami that never played the Lakers in a meaningful game. Um, they made me dislike the Lakers and they made me dislike Kobe because of their attitudes. And like, so I look back at that and I feel like that sucks. Like, I didn't get to appreciate him as much as I should have during his prime, during the end of his prime,
Yeah.
you know?
But I mean, I think the best part about that is that like we live in the age where you can literally just go to YouTube and search Kobe best games,
Yeah.
and it's just like right there.
I
And like
actually,
I think like knowing, like I said, like knowing that him and LeBron had that mutual respect for each other and that love for each other, I don't know, like
oh yeah, all the way till
it
the
just makes
end,
it easier.
all the way till his last days. Um, I'll tell like one Kobe story uh, before we dip out for me. I remember being at a Lakers game. It was Lakers Nets. This was in like this had to have been like '06, '07. This is when Kobe was completely by himself with like Smush Parker as his point guard, okay?
Yeah.
Like the 81 point game days and stuff like that, you know? Um so I got box seats. My dad's company had box seats. Me and my dad went to the game. Um, the Lakers are down by like 12, 13 points with like 2 minutes to go. And everyone in our box leaves the game. They just dip out. And like me and my dad looked at each other and looked around and we were like, do they not know Kobe is still in the game? And no lie, in that next like 3 minutes that were left in the game, Kobe went off and ended up tying the game up and going into overtime. Like all those people who were in the box completely missed out on all of that.
Yeah.
Now, the Lakers did not pull out the victory after all of that. But Kobe was one of those people that like when he was in a game, you couldn't turn it off. It didn't
No,
matter how much they were down. The game was never completely out of reach until the buzzer hit zero, and the Lakers didn't have as many points as the other team.
yeah.
Like that was the he. You couldn't if you knew sports, if you knew the Lakers, if you knew Kobe Bryant, you weren't gonna turn the TV off until the buzzer
No.
sounded.
Yeah. My favorite game of his like that, I think it was like 13 or 14, maybe like 12 against the Raptors, and they were down like 7 with 40 something seconds to go, and Kobe just hit like a bunch of backbreaker threes to like tie the game and send it into overtime and just kept doing it. And it's just like, yeah, like it's funny, like the mystique of Kobe is sometimes greater than the actual player, but like there are just so many moments like that that Laker fans can go back to and look at,
Mm-hmm.
and like you totally understand why they feel that way,
Oh yeah.
and you can't blame them at all. And I think my favorite thing that Kobe said was like after LeBron signed here, he was talking about how you like not everybody can play here.
Mm,
And I think everybody should know by now that the expectations of Laker fans is extremely high. So
mm.
much so that after that first garbage year with LeBron, like some of these people were out in the streets being like, sell the team genie,
Yeah.
fire Rob Pelinka, blah blah blah.
Trade LeBron.
Yeah, like the expectations, and obviously like that's not the core of the fan base. But like Kobe was giving an interview and he basically said that not everybody's built to play here, and that you have to want to do it and you have to want to take that pressure on. And like that is the perfect summation of his career. I think like he wanted to be here. He took that pressure, and like he won five titles, could have had more.
Yeah.
Man,
He
2010 will always be my favorite finals, I think.
was that the one where he
That
played the
was the
Magic?
Celtics.
Oh, the
No, that was
Celtics
the
one. Oh
Celtics.
yeah, the
Yeah,
Magic one was in
Game
08.
7.
Yeah.
Yeah, that Game 7 where he wasn't. People like to point out the 6 for 24 or whatever it was, but like Kobe was getting rebounds in that game and he was getting assists. Like he was doing the other stuff that he
Hmm.
needed to do for them to win. And
Yeah.
I think like that gets lost a lot in his career too. Is he was always willing to do what it took, and that's like that really rubbed off on the city of Los Angeles.
Bearded king. Heavy is the head that wears the crown.
We the best of the best. Not too many top-notch podcasts left. We don't even need much time to prep. Never ever know what we gon' do next, but real recognize real, you see. So please tell me that you're feeling me, cause I can smell jealousy from a mile away. And there's no space for that on the show today. Might hurt a couple feelings, but so what? It'll be a good story to tell when we blow up. Try to shut us down, you gon' have no luck. Cause we locked in, then we tryna get the whole cut. So just vibe, look alive, pay homage. We arrive, we ain't going nowhere. So fall back, legendary anthem like Left Eye and all that. Unpopular opinion, I'll swagger on a million. Immaculate civilians, adapting like chameleons. Be cautious in our dominion. Banks all around us on Vivian. Taking off like balloons filled with helium. Got cheese and bread, Sicilian. Unpopular opinion, unpopular opinion, unpopular opinion, unpopular opinion, unpopular opinion, unpopular opinion. Keep it real with it, yeah.